Dwayne Haskins is the former Ohio State quarterback, and many people believe he is the best quarterback in the 2019 NFL Draft. I don't think so. I don't see him that way. I do really like him. I see Dwayne Haskins having success at some level in the NFL. There's a lot of good things to say about Dwayne Haskins. He does a lot of good stuff. It's really obvious watching film. Dwayne Haskins has an incredible work ethic. I really respect that about him. His footwork is fantastic. He's really coachable. He's very detailed. Does all the little things right. And he makes really good decisions. I mean, he had 50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. It's really hard to look at that and go, does he make good decisions? We know it's not an accident he played so well last year and had such good statistics last year. And really, I want to start with this. There are 3 plays I want to immediately highlight that I guarantee these 3 plays are not plays anybody else would highlight to start off a film session. But these are 3 plays. They're kind of mundane. They're kind of small, but they really show at great depth what Dwayne Haskins does and who he is as a quarterback. I mean, everybody wants a guy with a gigantic arm that can make every single throw. But that, I don't know. Sometimes it's the throws you don't make that define you and that really show who you are. Against TCU, it's 1st and 10, and Ohio State's trying to set up a screen. It's not there. Dwayne Haskins simply just throws the ball away, throws the ball into the stands. It's fantastic. Against Indiana, another play later, 2nd and 10, they're on their own 4-yard line, The screen is covered. Dwayne Haskins throws the ball into the dirt. I like this. I really like this. It shows patience. It shows decision-making. He doesn't force it downfield. He doesn't force it into coverage. He gets rid of the ball, throws it away. That's fantastic, especially on a screen. You'd never want to throw a screen into coverage. That's a terrible idea. Now, there's another play against Michigan. Ohio State has 3 wide receivers on the right side of the field, 1 wide receiver on the left. And there's man coverage on the left side of the field. What that means is that the corner on the left is going to follow the wide receiver wherever he goes. Ohio State runs a mesh concept. What this means is that there are 2 short routes that will cross each other in the middle of the field. The guy on the left runs to the right side of the field. The guy on the right runs to the left side of the field. And because of man coverage, the defender chases his receiver all the way across the field, leaving a giant void on the left side of the field. Dwayne Haskins is smart. He recognizes this. He sees all of it. He goes, oh my gosh, Michigan is out of position. He throws the ball underneath to his guy who is heading towards the left side of the field, hits his guy in stride. It leads to a very easy touchdown. From a glance, from far away, it looks like, oh wow, Dwayne Haskins threw an easy pass. His receiver did all the work, simple touchdown. But it's the simple, small details behind this throw. Recognizing Michigan's coverage, throwing an accurate pass, making sure his guy catches it in stride. It's a 5-yard throw. It's not flashy. It's small, it's subtle, and it's a fantastic touchdown. That defines Dwayne Haskins in a nutshell. He does all the little things right. It's also worth noting Dwayne Haskins is not a running quarterback. I've heard people say that. It drives me nuts. It's wildly wrong. He is not a running quarterback. If he needs to run for 5 or 6 yards, he can. But he's a pocket passing quarterback. He's not a running quarterback. You will not build an offense around Dwayne Haskins' ability to run the football. He's about as mobile as Sam Darnold. He's not going to run a lot. He can run for 5 yards if he needs to on 3rd and 2, but he's not at all a running quarterback. Now, many people compare Dwayne Haskins to other top quarterback prospect Kyler Murray. Dwayne Haskins threw for 4,831 yards, 50 touchdowns, 5-0, and 8 interceptions. Kyler Murray had less. Kyler Murray had only 4,361 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. People have told me this. Well, look at Dwayne Haskins' stats. Aren't they wildly better? First of all, that's silly, right? You're going to look at stats and say that he's a better quarterback because of his numbers. I think that's a really poor way to determine what makes a good quarterback. It's not the numbers. There's so much more that goes into playing quarterback other than statistics. But second, if you want to just talk about statistics, Kyler Murray also had another 1,000 yards rushing and 12 more touchdowns running the football, right? He had more yards overall than Dwayne Haskins did in 2018. And here's what I see on film. Dwayne Haskins' stats are inflated by screen passes. He throws really short 5-yard passes that get turned into really long gains and allowed his numbers to go up by a lot. So I knew what happened in the Penn State game before I watched it. Against Penn State, Dwayne Haskins led a 96-yard touchdown drive in the fourth quarter to take the lead and win the ball game. And I knew that was going to happen. I was very excited to watch. Ooh, what's going to happen? How is he going to have this long drive? I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know what happened. When I saw what happened, I was wildly disappointed. It was like, really? Are you kidding me? I was so excited to watch it, and when I did, it was a letdown. Haskins had 96 yards passing and a touchdown on 3 screen passes. 3 passes where he didn't really do any of the work. He dumped it off to his guy. His guy did all the work. Gains of 33 yards, 34 yards, and 29 yards. He didn't do any of the work, and that's not a big concern, right? It's just, it annoys me when people use Dwayne Haskins' statistics and say, that's why he's a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. His stats were inflated massively by doing things like this, dumping off little 5-yard passes, and not even like where he made a read. He just decided yes or no on a screen pass and went for a giant gain. That happened many, many times when you watch Dwayne Haskins' film. Forget the stats. What does the film say? That is what I want to worry about. And on film, I see 3 problems. 3 problems Dwayne Haskins has that make it so that he's not the number 1 quarterback prospect in this draft. The first thing is this. He's late on hitch throws. He's late on timing throws. If you're going to throw a hitch or a deep comeback, you have to throw the ball before your receiver is out of his break. If a receiver is waiting for the ball on a hitch, then the throw is late. And I saw that a lot, many, many times on film. I'm sorry, but in the NFL, you cannot get away with that. That is not possible in the NFL. Those passes are intercepted. They're incompletions. Defenders knock that away. That would not fly in the NFL. The second problem I see with Dwayne Haskins is that he has somewhat of an average deep ball. He often underthrows passes deep downfield. This happens because he often does not follow through. You know, guys sometimes have a tendency to leave their hand hanging in the air as if you're shooting a jump shot in basketball. You have to drive your deep balls all the way down the field as if you're throwing a 5-yard out or a 15-yard out or a comeback. If you're going to throw a fade route, it has to be driven with as much intention and as much follow-through as if you were throwing a 15-yard out or a 15-yard comeback. You got to really drive it through. You got to finish your hand all the way to your other hip. And oftentimes we see Dwayne Haskins not follow through all the way on his deep balls, and it causes him to underthrow them. Dwayne Haskins' inconsistent deep ball is partly due to his third problem. The way he throws the ball concerns me, the way it comes out of his hand. He makes really good decisions. He does a good job, makes really solid reads. Usually his incompletions come because of a lack of accuracy. So why? The question is, why is Dwayne Haskins inaccurate? 2 reasons. One is this: the ball does not come out of his hand very well. He doesn't flick his wrist very hard, and the ball literally does not spin very well out of his hand. It's a weak spiral. And a weak spiral has a lot of problems because it does not cut through the wind very well. In a really hard stadium to play in, like where the Giants play in New York, there's a lot of wind, a lot of elements. The ball will not cut through the wind very well, and Dwayne Haskins will struggle, and his ball will flutter and sometimes be inaccurate because of the lack of a tight spiral. And not having a tight spiral and not having the ball come out of your hand very well causes a second problem. If his feet aren't perfectly lined up towards his target, he's inaccurate. And that's not good. You can't have that in the NFL. This is a difficult thing to explain. If you're watching on YouTube, I used a graphic that I made with a picture of my buddy Ryan. Go follow him on Twitter. His name's Ryan Berg, Baerg. Now, in the NFL, if a quarterback is pointed towards the left side of the field, you should be able to make throws basically anywhere on that side of the field. Anywhere to the left, if your feet are pointed somewhere in the direction of the left, you should be able to make every single throw to the left. And if your feet are pointed to the right side of the field, in the NFL, you need to be able to complete every pass to the right side of the field if your feet are simply pointed in that direction. Now, if you're an 8th grader or a young high school quarterback, please ignore everything I'm about to say. If you're a young quarterback, you got to get your feet right. You can't worry about breaking the rules until you know how to do the rules properly. But in the NFL, you've got to be accurate even if your feet aren't perfectly pointed at your target. Now, to do this, you have to separate your upper body from your lower body. Your upper body does all the work, pointing your shoulder and making sure the ball goes into the right location. Your upper body throws the ball and makes it go to the right spot. The job of your lower body, your legs, it must generate force. Your legs create force so you can throw the ball with a lot of velocity. Your legs don't have to be necessarily perfectly pointed at your target, but they must be on balance. If you're not balanced, you're not going to throw a good football. Your legs matter. I'm not saying they don't, but they shouldn't have to be perfectly lined up at your target. They just got to be on balance and be creating force so you can throw the ball downfield. When everything's lined up for Dwayne Haskins, his throwing is perfect. He's highly accurate. He's fantastic. But because the ball doesn't spin out of his hand very well, he doesn't flick his wrist very well, he's not as accurate if his feet aren't perfect. That's a concern. That's a real problem in the NFL. A lot of it comes back to just the flick of the wrist. That's how the spiral is created. If you want to throw a spiral, you flick your wrist. Now, here's the good news. This is not only fixable. I actually found 2 examples on film through this, watching the entire season. There are 2 throws this year where Dwayne Haskins does exactly what we're looking for. He does one against Purdue, and he does it once against Washington. Both of them are posts. They're both on throws where his feet aren't perfectly lined up towards his target. And in both instances, his upper body and the flick of the wrist makes up the difference for the lack of great footwork and sends the ball to the proper location. What that shows us is that he does have the capacity to do what he needs to do. He just needs to develop that skill and do it more consistently. He needs to be able to throw more consistently when his feet aren't perfectly lined up to his target, still throw an accurate pass, even again if his feet aren't lined up perfectly. Dwayne Haskins is a really good quarterback, right? He's not as talented of a thrower as Kyler Murray. He also has way more bad plays on film. But I think he's going to succeed and become a successful NFL quarterback. His strength, the good news about him is that his strength is his ability to read defenses. If you give him a good head coach and a patient fan base, he can become a great NFL quarterback. He's patient. He's not afraid to get hit. He does all the little things right. Remember, it's not always about the physical ability. Aaron Rodgers had awful mechanics coming into the NFL, and Tom Brady was a joke. I believe Dwayne Haskins will be a successful NFL quarterback because all of his issues are coachable. Give him time, give him patience, give him a good head coach. He will develop and will become a successful quarterback. I respect his work ethic, and I believe in him. My name is Zach Schaumler. This is my podcast, Strong Opinion Sports. It is my favorite thing in the entire world. And I want to ask for your help. I want this show to grow. I want more people to watch and more people to listen to this podcast. My dream is to do this show as my full-time job. I want to own it myself. I want to do it on the internet and have complete control. I don't want to do it for CBS or ESPN. I don't want to work for a big network. I want to own it myself. And if you believe in that dream, please do me a huge favor. Help me grow by telling your friends about this podcast. Share it on Facebook, share a link on Twitter. Maybe you screenshot it, put it on Instagram. I don't have a marketing strategy beyond this. This is all I have. You know, a lot of people, one of the most common comments I get on YouTube is, you have great content. We love your stuff. You deserve more viewers. What you should do is you should buy ad spaces on Facebook or Twitter or promote yourself and buy revenue, like buy ads. I have no money. I am a broke college kid. I can't buy ad spaces. I don't have money to pay for books. And so my plan, this is my marketing plan, this is my strategy. All I plan to do is put every ounce of effort I have into making the very best podcast I can. I believe if I make a great product that people believe in, that people like, then they will share it with their friends. And so if you agree with that, if you believe in the show, if you like what I do, please do me a huge favor. Tell your friends about it. Help me grow by telling your friends about this podcast.